What's up, guys?
Whoa.
I think we are live. Welcome back to another round of Form Check Friday. And I wasn't doing these for a little while because we were really busy, but they are fun to do. And I think the biggest thing that I like doing them for is if we can show you what we're looking for with lifts that we are watching, lifts that we're analyzing, trying to figure out what lifters can do better, should help you guys get a better handle on your own training and your own coaching.
Yeah.
So we are back running her again. Got Miana and special guest Effie.
I feel like we should say that she never comes into the basement. So when she came and sat on my lap, we're not moving her. She lives here now until she wants to leave.
I realized I didn't have the mics out. And I was going to roll out with the shitty in-camera audio, and then I had to get up, and it was very hard to not disturb Effie because she's afraid of the basement. But it is nice to have her down here.
Yeah.
But figure we should hop over into the team, get into the FCF thread because, well, not every Friday anymore, but on the Fridays we are running it. I always pop up a FCF thread so people that want to have their lifts made fun of on YouTube, constructively bullied,
Yeah.
so they can get better. They pop them in the thread, and we are going to take a look at them. Do you want to start from the top or
Well,
the bottom?
Should we say we capped it at like 5 today?
Yeah, we capped her
right?
at 5 just so it doesn't go on for too long with the current scheduling. Still got to record a podcast later this evening, so we're busy. We're busy boys right now. I guess I'm more
Yeah.
of a busy boy. Miana's busy girl.
I'm busy girl. Yeah. Except today is my non-training day. So I got to do a little yoga today, which was nice. I feel like I'm feeling it's busy, but I'm calm.
Yeah, so we're
Yeah. Let's get on her.
figure. Well,
Let's do we've got some
I'm
people.
excited about Martin's deadlift
Yeah.
because he's a good puller, and we're getting her back. So I want to take a look at this first. I think we'll start from the bottom today. Make sure the computer audio is silenced, just so I'm not blasting everyone with his Norse metal that he's probably playing
Ooh,
right now.
okay.
But pause deadlifts, 270 double.
270. So I would like to see a longer pause. This
Yeah,
is basically like
a little more hold on the pause. I'd be very okay with.
Yeah.
And I think like the big thing with a pause deadlift is the first thing I'm looking for is the positioning at the pause. Because at a pause deadlift, it's easy to make it easy on you if you like lean back at that pause point to shift the levers. But the problem with that on a pause deadlift is that if we're learning to lean back off the floor, off the brake, we're going to get screwed at the top end. So he's doing a really good job of not leaning back at the pause. Really happy with the pause positioning here because like that's beautiful. But like Miana was saying, I would be more happy if we just embraced that hold just a little bit longer and made it a little bit grosser. And I think like with that more embraced hold, it's almost like he's slowing himself down. Well, obviously a pause deadlift, you have to slow yourself down to stop the bar, but it's like he's slowing it down because he's not being assertive with the hold. It looks like he's not being as assertive again with the second go. So if I'm ever running a pause deadlift, I want that hold to be hard, solid, and then snap. So if we get a little bit more assertiveness on that hold, I think we could do a little bit better with that.
Agreed.
Now, as far as his accessories he's running to help build this, you can notice at the top he's getting a little bit sticky. So we got him running some stiffies right now. And I think, is this some ugly RDLs? He's running RDLs, not stiffies, apparently. I would rather see a stiffy, I think.
Agreed.
With that than the RDL. So I think we're going to yell at him to put the stiffy in the picture here. But I think like the big thing that I want to do is like, if we're going to run a stiffy, if we're going to run an RDL, with knowing how much he's capable of pulling, I would much rather see this much heavier.
Yeah.
And
agreed.
I think if he does like this pattern, because I do kind of like the logic for reinforcing the top end hip groove with this kind of pattern, but instead of kind of running it like just a lighter RDL, I would rather make this more of a Dimmel deadlift. And what I mean by Dimmel deadlift is it's going to be very, very similar to the shape of this.
I was almost thinking that this kind of already looks like a hybrid between a Dimmel and an RDL.
Yeah,
like with the pace
and I think
going.
like what I'd rather do is I would rather have like a stiffy pushed hard. Chris, I'm gonna keep saying stiffy just because you're saying not to say stiffy in a public place. They're stiffies. The stiff leg deadlift is a stiffy.
I mean, we're not in a public place. Is he in a public place? Is that what's going on?
Can I say that I got a stiffy for stiffies, or will I get demonetized? I love stiff leg deadlifts because they are such a freaking good builder. But anyways, on the whole Dimmel versus RDL, I think we could make this more specific to what I was talking about with like getting that sauce in after the pause. If it is loaded this light, what I would like to see is a harder drop to the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
a harder catch, a hard hold similar to the hold that I'd want to be looking for in the pause deadlift, just a little bit higher. And then from that hard hold, freaking rocket that shit up to lockout, squeeze those butt cheeks as hard as you can. And I think that we can clean up that little bit of stickiness there. And I think like the reason I want the heavier stiff leg in is because the heavier stiff leg, like that's going to force him to grind through that. And what we need to get better at is just grinding through this grossness. So we'd use the heavy stiff leg to get better at grinding through the grossness. We'll use the more of a Dimmel intent on those RDLs to make it more specific to getting the sequencing and positioning going. Think that covers it?
Yeah, I absolutely think you covered that.
Sick. Now, moving on to Matt, we got some sumos this week, some
Oh,
stiffs and
sick.
Bulgarians.
He's getting stronger.
He's rolling into a meet later this month. So
Oh.
we're being a little bit hard on him just to make sure everything is good to go into the meet. I've been yelling at him heavily on his everything, but it is necessary. And I think like the biggest thing that we're doing with the team to get lifters to make really good progress is we're just trying to hold them to a higher standard than they're holding themselves to on their execution.
Go back to the start. What do you think about his hip and torso head position? Like starting out, do you think that he's a little bit too far back, a little bit like kind of almost RDLing it?
Because I really like where his knees are right now.
Yeah.
But the thing that's kind of telling me that we could do better with the hips is like as he's setting into the wedge, as he's creating tension, you can see the knees are kicking backwards a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think what I'd want to add to this picture to get a better first rep, I'm going to watch the second here because the second kind of does it better.
Yeah.
And Matt has been really, he's been getting a lot better, but he was the guy that his first rep of deadlifts always sucked balls and his second rep was way better. And like the reasoning that a second rep on deadlifts can often look and feel better is because we have an eccentric from the first rep, we're lowering into that tension before our second rep. So we already have more pre-tension and it can make the break off the floor a lot better if a guy isn't super good at setting tension on the first rep. And what I'm thinking looking at like rep 1 versus rep 2, he's doing a better job of holding the knees over the bar so he actually can use the legs that he's been working really hard to build with all of his squat work, with all of his hack squats. Because you got to, again, see the knees just want to have that little bit of kickback. He's not quite shoved in. So what I'd be thinking right here if I was Matt, and this is kind of almost more of a better cue for conventional than sumo, but when he's here and when his hips are still a little bit high, I'd really be thinking about trying to leg curl in. And Matt's in the chat right now, so he's hearing this live. But I'd be thinking about trying to like almost like leg curl your knees forward, not to actually get them forward, but just to have that little bit more tension so they stay where they need to be so we can drive off a little bit better. But again, like this is a much better first rep that I have seen probably in the past. So I am at least very okay with this. But again, if we could kind of get that position where the knees are more forward, he's able to just extend on top of it, I think we could do a lot better job. I think that'll kind of just come from having a little bit more ham tension to hold him in, maybe a little bit more hip to push the hips in from the back. But I'm pretty okay with this. And I think like knowing that he is cranking on his hams with the GHRs, etc. I'm pretty okay with that. And like the stiff leg, again, stiffy for stiffies. Why I like Matt running this is, again, he was used to be really freaking bad about engaging his upper back, engaging his lats, and we're trying to get him to focus on the stiff legs is really just pulling all of this in to help drive his rib cage forward from the top. Because if we're in a stiff leg deadlift and we're really latting in hard and our brace is there, as those lats contract, it's going to be pulling the rib cage forward towards the bar. If the abs are on, the rib cage is then going to help lever the hips in, and this is really freaking good. And for a sumo deadlifter, just going back to this picture here, he is pretty rounded in the upper back at the start, which is a good thing because that's going to let him get hips closer to the bar than he would be with his current mobility. And once we kind of get through the less than efficient first push off the floor, you kind of see once he gets going, he just locks out knees, finishes it with the same kind of erector contraction that he has on the stiff leg. So again, back is doing exactly what I want it to do, and that is a reflection of how he is treating the stiffies. But I'm stoked seeing the progress here because like this is so much better, dude. Give yourself a pat on the back because this has come so freaking far.
I'd be curious, like when did Matt join the team? Because he was
one of the first guys in here.
Yeah, I feel like he's progressed a lot.
And I think like the coolest thing for me with running this is it's definitely a situation of the lifters that put in the most work get the best results, which kind of
Hmm.
sounds stupid saying out loud because it should be obvious. But what I mean by that is like Matt's someone that's posting every training session. He's asking really good questions all the time. He's bouncing ideas off of us. And because he's doing that, he's able to get so much help and it's
Hmm.
getting so much freaking better. And this is one that I am
Ooh.
very happy to see, dude. Because
Yeah.
I've been yelling at him for a while to like progress Bulgarians up as aggressively as he can for the sake of his squat. And
Gnarly.
he's been doing them with kettlebells, dumbbells, and he's kind of like maxed out the loading on kettlebell dumbbell situation. And yelled at him to get on the Smith machine this week. And I think like my only complaint is how hard that last rep was. We could put more weight on it.
Right. I was actually just going to say, I am like a huge fan of Smith lunges and Smith Bulgarians. I can do these with 45s. So I think you should be able to beat me
Yeah,
personally.
and I think the other thing I'd be looking for, other than putting more weight on the bar here, is I would be okay if we let the chest fall a little bit lower and
Hmm.
got a little bit more hinge in,
Yeah,
just so we can get a bit
lean.
more hip angle, and that should be more better for more hippie action here. But again, like that last rep was way too easy, dude. It's like same thing we were yelling at you about on the hack squats. Like we just gotta get used to chugging through. So we
Hmm.
can chug through that harder. And again, it's like one of the first times with the Smith machine, I'll be okay with kind of easing in just to get the feels for it. But after the meet, we are definitely going to crank the shit out of those
More.
and put some more weight on the bar there.
Rasmus.
Yeah, we're rolling.
Yeah, I love that name. Whoa. I don't know why I wasn't expecting that.
What do you mean? Oh, I thought you were talking about the shoulder saver pad.
No, for a second from this angle, I thought he was doing a kettlebell swing or something.
Assertive
threw me
setup,
threw me off.
but oh,
Can you make it
yeah,
bigger?
can I go full screen? Will it? I don't know what that does
Uh,
with the live stream. If that helps them see it more or not.
mm, okay, all good.
Redoing.
I need my glasses.
Niana has her tiny little eyeballs that aren't very good at seeing, and the monitor's really far away.
The
So,
monitor's really far away. It's okay.
but I'm very happy with 95% of this.
So again, I'm far away. It looked like there was like a smidge of a dump
Yeah,
when it landed on his
the
chest.
5% that I'm unhappy with, I am. Oh, Mirka saying it was easier to see. Okay,
It was easier to see on the live
okay,
stream. Amazing.
okay, sick. So,
This is so much easier for me to see.
okay, so we'll restart here.
Okay.
Go with the zoom in strategy.
Yes.
But what I'm happy about is when Rasmus started in here, his upper back tension, his serratus tension sucked balls, and he was basically like falling off of the bench on his right side. Like his scap was not connected at all. It was really wobbly, really saggy. Bench was super crooked. So I'm pretty happy with
Hmm.
seeing that getting better. Now, what I want to change here is I think we still could get a little bit more assertiveness yet, because if we're watching the armpit right as he unracks, he's finding
Mm.
some more serratus through the unrack itself. So I think
Hmm.
all I'd want to do here is when he's set up under the bar, I would want to try to just not full protraction. I don't want to see like shoving out and pressing scaps like up away from rib cage. I just want to see a little bit more tension through protraction, like get serratus tension in there,
Hmm.
then finish the lat lock, then get the unrack. And I bet we could finish nailing down that scap positioning.
Yeah.
But also knowing that this is a board press and super maximal, I'm pretty okay with the situation.
Yeah. And I kind of want to like rescind what I said before. It wasn't actually that dumpy.
But I think the touch
There
could
is like
still
a
be a
little
little bit
weird touch.
cleaner.
Yeah.
And what I always cue with a raw lifter on board press is I want to see a pause. That was kind of, half pause. So I'm not too worried
Hmm.
about that. But what I really want to think about is when we are touching the board or the pad is touching the chest, if we're doing a real board press when the bar touches the board, what I really want to try to prioritize while we're paused down there is trying to squish the board. And not because we're letting the bar sink into it, but because we're trying to lift the chest, lift the rib cage into the board, using the
Hmm.
upper back to pull in. And that is how we're going to get the upper back skill that we need for full range of motion press to come into the board work.
Yes.
So I think just a little bit more patience with the interact to make sure we got the scap positioning found and solved. I think that should do a whole lot better for making this feel more solid in the hands, but
Mm-hmm.
pretty darn pretty darn stoked with the situation. I think we could just dig into that pause a little bit harder, but again, knowing super maximal board press, not too worried about that situation at all. And Chris,
More people are saying that full screen is good, and this is fantastic for my
yeah,
eyeballs.
good to know. Learning things.
To be fair, on our end, you guys disappear when we go full screen, so
Yeah.
it's a little frightening.
Yeah, so I don't know because I can't see I can't see the Streamlabs setup when it goes full screen because it just goes through the whole monitor. But
But okay,
glad it works.
yeah, same.
And we got Chris floor pressed. Chris is funny. I like
Oh,
Chris. I like
why is he
Chris
funny?
because
Funny looking.
a little bit, Probably too.
I was just joking, but
I mean, he'd be less funny looking if he filled out his tall ass frame to
oh
be
yeah, a little lanky.
be at least 242 as a first step is where I'd be going. But
Oh, okay, all right. That's funny.
how tall are you, Chris, for reference? Because I'm assuming again, like based on all the setups, I'm assuming you're taller than I am. But
Do you want to go full?
yeah,
Or do you want to wait for him to say how tall he is?
we'll be surprised after. So we're in the full screen mode.
Go back to the start if we can.
Go back to the full line rack.
Oh,
Oh, I gotta.
come on. There you go. It's a long on rack.
Yeah.
Kind of crappy J's, but that's okay.
I think again, a little bit loosey goosey.
I'm not a huge fan of the hip up on rack on
No.
floor press personally. Like I find like it's too hard to kind of like regain the tension after.
Yeah, and floor press setup wise, again, like just like thinking pure setup, the two things I would be doing for sure would be number one, raising the J hooks.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, if you have like a gymnastics mat or like a stretching mat or something to
Yes.
put underneath you, if we allow a little bit of squish between you and the floor, that is going to make it just work so much better because right now the floor press being on the hard floor, scaps can't move at all. And if we are benching, we want to be able to, have a little bit of relative protraction at the top. Again, not full dump into protraction, but if we can have that little bit of protraction at the top so that as we're lowering, we can travel into more retraction and then press back into protraction. Having a mat on a floor press will allow you to do that, and it's going to let the pecs and shoulders work so much better because we're allowing that little bit of scapular freedom. And I think we
Yes.
can make the unrack a lot cleaner if we have the J hooks raised up a hole.
Yes. Agreed.
Now, in the bottom, we got that elbow funk going on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when he is contacting the floor, I'm pretty okay with how he's touching the floor because a big problem I see with a lot of floor pressers is they just like either just like crater their elbows off the ground and bounce, or they
Dump.
yeah, or they just touch and go it. So I'm
Yeah.
happy with the pause. I'm happy with the touch, but I think we could do a little bit better at creating tension in that pause point.
Mhm.
And similar to what I was talking about with the board press from Rasmus, what I think would help a ton here with managing that elbow is because he's kind of like settling on the floor, but settling without tension.
Yeah.
And what I want to see different is when he's down here, almost think again, like on the board press, we're talking about trying to pull ribcage up into the board. On a floor press, I'm always trying to pull my elbows into the floor
Yes.
to lift my chest towards the bar. And if we can have that upper back tension and then press off of that tension, it's going to let us have a better, stronger, more precise pec tricep contraction at the
Yeah.
bottom. And I think that would manage that little bit of elbow fling.
When I'm doing floor press, I like to think about like the cue of imagine like you're doing an isometric row
Yes.
with like a wide bar essentially. Because like you want to have that feeling of everything locked in and squeezed before you press up from it.
And like with floor presses too, like if we can make it as hard as possible to get out of the bottom and like really just embrace that tension, embrace that pause. When we have to pause a bench and we're not unloaded on the floor with that pull tension, we're gonna have so much confidence launching out of the bottoms. Like that's why I freaking love floor presses. I think it'll be a good variation for Chris to dig into because of that going on there.
I just saw 6'3". I was gonna say he only looked like 5'10" in that video.
Yeah.
He doesn't look that funny.
I mean, he's too skinny. He's too skinny for 6'3". Should not be a 220 at 6'3".
Amazing.
Should definitely not be a 220 at 6'3".
He's
So we
220 at 6'3". Oh boy.
Yeah. So, and again, it's like knowing how strong he is now and knowing what his squat looks like. I did a meat breakdown video of his not too long ago. Like, he's got a really good squat for how long he is, but like, if we put 3 inches on his legs,
3 inches.
That'd take a lot of work, but like
yeah,
2-3 years down the road, if you put
Okay,
3 inches
yeah.
on his legs, put 3-4 inches on his arms, because we got to get those triceps bigger too, like that would be a freaking gross total with what you're moving now. So
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
I'm not saying just to get fat. I'm saying like he's
I was
jacked,
gonna
he's
say
shredded, he's
let's
lean.
not give him an eating disorder.
Yeah.
I'm up from 165 currently. Oh my god. And he's still lean too. Like I
Yeah.
could see his hamstrings popping out in
like,
that video.
Yeah, again, we want to keep the relative leanness, but we could get him heavier.
Please don't get an eating disorder from us.
Now, looking at Austin's squat here. So Austin was someone who came in kind of doing more continuity stuff, training in a multiply gym, and he was kind of lost in the sauce of variation. And what I mean by that is he was kind of struggling with consistency, kind of struggling with groove, kind of struggling with managing fatigue and knowing when to push, when not to push. So we kind of got him more of just a competition lift focus right now to establish some consistency. And like seeing the warm-ups, there is some stuff that we do need to work on for sure, but this is the same his squats have looked in a very long time. Like he looks like he has a groove now.
Do I go full screen?
Yeah, I gotta do that. Sorry. Thank you for reminding me. I'm not burdened by bad eyesight like me.
Okay.
But I think like right now he was asking in the office hours today, like what I think he needs to kind of change in terms of exercise selection wise, since he has been on the SPD. It's like, I think we just need to keep going with this, because other than some technical things, like this is looking pretty, and there isn't really any blatant, like this is lagging behind weak point showing stuff. And like, obviously I still want to keep making sure his quads are pushed hard on accessories. I still want to keep making sure that he's pushing the shit out of his triceps for his bench, because he is kind of coming out of the quads, but I don't think that's reason to finally have a comp squat groove established that doesn't look like he's flopping around. I don't think there's reason to kind of dig into variations, because for now we just need to keep practicing, keep making this feel normal, and good things are going to happen.
How old is he?
Early 20s, so
yeah, he's
young
still
kid.
really young.
Yeah, so I think again we don't need to get lost in the sauce of variation right now.
But
what we do need to do, just get stronger is one. But looking at the upper back tension, that's my only real complaint here, because you kind of see in the unrack, shoulders are moving around, elbows are moving around.
Yes.
And he's doing a pretty good job of like pulling into it now.
Yeah.
But if we could get that before the unrack even happens, he's going to feel so much more solid under the bar. And I bet if we can get the better upper back tension, he's going to be able to hold the brace better, which should give him a better chance of staying in the legs and not kicking out. So again, like he is kicking out of the quads a little bit there, but I think most of it is just going to be solved by, I don't know where the video went. Oh, there we go. Most of it is going to be solved by just locking that upper back better and that's also going to let him do better with the brace underneath it. Because if we're thinking about like upper back tension versus brace tension, if we're trying to drive the elbows down, like that is helping to lift the chest up, right? And if we are driving the elbows down harder with abs on, so the abs are on holding the ribcage down from the bottom, we're driving elbows down, pulling ribcage up from the top, that is going to let us contract harder on both the front side and back side.
Yes.
And like his brace has gotten so much better, so we just add a little bit more upper back into that, we should be able to do even better than he is now. But am stoked with seeing the consistency come in, seeing things building in. But yeah, could have done more than 5.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was just trying to read the comments. Is there anything good?
I'm too far away from the comment section.
You're also too far away?
Well, yeah, because like the squat video, the training videos are, right dead center. I gotta lean way over here.
Amazing.
What do you mean, Mirka? We gotta bully people who are too skinny. Like the only reason Keelan's total has gone up from like 1,300 to 1,900 in the last 4 years is just incessant me yelling at him for being too skinny.
Keelan?
Yeah.
Did you see his post today?
Yeah.
He's still got abs. He's like
abs.
290.
Yeah.
So.
But that's less impressive when you consider how tall he is.
Yeah. How tall is he?
I always joke that he's like 6'7", but in reality it's like 6'4".
Yeah. I feel like I need to like stand next to him to like, because I don't know. I don't want to say that he looks short on camera, but he doesn't look 6'4" on camera to me.
Well, it's because he's wide.
Yeah, he is wide.
He's got the width going for him.
Yeah, but I'm not a very good judge of tallness at 5'1".
But again, it's like I'm wider than he is, so.
Oh, so he needs to. He does still look.
He needs to get the thickness
which
going.
Is funny. He's like 290. He still looks kind of skinny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, Chris, we can get you less skinny for sure.
Yeah.
And it's kind of one of the things too where like if the goal is as big of total as possible, putting on more tissue is going to 100% help someone. And it's going to be one of those things where if someone's in a position where they are prioritizing feeling fit, prioritizing, being able to run, prioritizing being able to do all that stuff, like that may not be the route to go.
Yeah.
But if someone does want the biggest total possible, it's like getting jacked is going to help.
Yes. And I think it's I was just going to say it's so important, like especially with your background, to clarify that being bigger does not mean fatter.
Yes. Because I've screwed up down that road before.
Yes.
As you all know. And like it's not a fun road to take. And I think it definitely did hold me back being over fat for a 308 for a long time. But that's exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing now and doing the little reset to get things rolling again.
Yes, absolutely. And like even like I'm 140 pounds. I competed at 132. Even when I was 148-ish or even like heavier, I never felt actually stronger when I was fatter.
Yeah. So it's going to be like the tissue moves weight.
Yeah, it's more, yeah.
The muscle tissue moves weight. Fat tissue cannot contract.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
Not encouraging fatness around here.
No.
No body positivity. Only body negativity.
In terms of being your strongest and your best weight category. Yeah. In terms of having a good Wilks score and being strong, being fat isn't really that great.
Yeah.
That's what we're saying.
Yep.
But
and if anyone has a problem with Wilks scores, easy solution, get stronger.
Yeah.
We should stop saying Wilks scores now that no one uses them anymore. Dot score, we gotta
is that just verbiage. Like we've been competing for like 12 years and like
it was all Wilks back in the day.
My Wilks is like 1 point better than my dots. So I want to talk about Wilks.
Yeah. Well, my Wilks is like 10 points better than my dots.
Oh.
Yeah. So.
Damn.
Anyways. On that note, if any of you guys are watching on this and are not in the team, like sign up. It is freaking sick. You're able to get individualized coaching on every single thing you're doing every single day that you train so that we can make sure that you are doing the work necessary to get better. You can bounce ideas off of us. You can get feedback. And again, the coolest thing about it is that it is absolutely a reflection of the effort that the people are putting in that allows the improvement. Because like, again, the programming in here, phenomenal, rock solid. Like periodization strategy is fantastic. That's why I'm writing it, because it's as good as I can make it. But the people that are able to ask questions, understand it better, do better with it. And that is cool for me to see. And it makes it more exciting for me to get in here every single day to do more of this, more in depth than we're running on the Form Check Fridays. But on that note, peace out, guys.
Yeah.
Have a good rest of your day. And
you gonna wake up, Effie?
We will see you maybe next week.